Hi, it's Tom Moran from the Star-Ledger editorial board. I'm here with Senator Ray Lesniak, one of the Democratic candidates for governor, a legislature for almost 40 years now.
Correct.
Amazing for a guy who's only 50 years old. Champion of a long list of liberal causes, gay rights, a co-sponsor of the marriage amendment, eliminating the death penalty, which you won a Human Rights Award in France for, I might note. An end to mass incarceration, 3 or 4 different bills on that, expanding the drug court, ending mandatory sentences in school zones. A pioneer of early environmental regulations, forcing polluters to clean up their own stuff, their own mess, clean water provisions, tough protections. Has grown wealthy as a partner in a law firm, Weiner Lesniak, that has traditionally done a lot of business with public bodies, including public bodies that the law firm donated money to. We'll get to that. A supporter of tax breaks to encourage companies to move to New Jersey or to stay here. There's a lot of concern in both the left and the right that those tax breaks have got spun out of control and haven't yielded the dividends we hoped. So what highlights am I missing?
Well, first of all, my lawsuit right now, my challenge to Christie's sellout to ExxonMobil, a $9.2 billion claim. He settled for $225 million. I'm going to get that overturned in the appellate division. But it's even worse than that, Tom, because there were throw-ins in addition to the $225 million for Exxon. They're actually walking away with a release of liability for over $1 billion. Right. I'm going to get that overturned. I'm fighting that, and I've sued them in the past, and I've won. Also, the fact that I have a landmark women's rights right to choose case. As a young legal services attorney, I represented a poor woman, Mrs. Ponter. She was married but separated from her husband for over 10 years, didn't even know where he was. She wanted to get a sterilization operation. Doctor said, no, we can't do it without your husband's consent. She said, I don't know where my husband is. Can't do it without your husband's consent. I said, what about Roe versus Wade? Well, that was about abortion. This is something else. So I took that case to court. I won, and it said a woman has a right to choose over any medical procedure involving her body, and no one else has that right but that woman. That actually went beyond Roe versus Wade, and to this very day, has established a woman's right to choose on solid grounds, regardless of the procedure, and that's the way it should be.
Okay. Let me start off with the fiscal crisis, because I sort of see it as a central thing.
I agree.
Both on the left and the right, because for liberals like yourself, if we don't solve this, we can't afford to do things like full-day pre-kindergarten. We can't afford to do drug treatment on demand. Affordable housing initiatives, our wings are clipped. As you know, we have the second lowest bond rating in the country, which basically means we're facing more pressure than every other state except Illinois to raise taxes and cut spending. So if we don't solve this, to me, let me just ask you in the abstract,
Sure.
Is that a liberal cause to cut spending and raise taxes
No.
to make it?
I mean, it's my cause to cut spending. I have proposed a controller of education because my experience in Elizabeth, what we would do is send violations of expenditures, unauthorized expenditures like truant officers for 4-year-olds, custodians supervisors of custodians supervising only themselves, and it went into a deep hole. The education establishment did nothing about it. The cost was unauthorized, so what they did was they put it on the local taxpayer.
But this sounds a little bit like let's cut fraud and abuse. I mean, why would your initiative make a difference?
Well, because I have a real proposal. And
to do what? Establishes a
Office of Controller of Education that will say to any Board of Education, review the budget and take a look at any unauthorized expenditure and say, you cannot spend that.
Okay.
Wait, there's something else.
Sure.
Our formula that is the basis for state aid was developed in 2007. Do you know how much technology has increased efficiency and productivity since 2007? We have to take a look at that formula. I bet we'll have a review there that will save a lot of money as well.
You're saying you think you could reduce school spending by Trenton more than Christie already has?
I think we can reduce the waste of school spending and make it more efficient at the same time.
Okay, but that formula that you mentioned, approved by Supreme Court, bipartisan approval, is underfunded now by $1.4 billion. So how do you save money?
Well, well, first of all, you save money by changing the formula. You change the formula by looking at the efficiencies that have been adopted over the next 10 years, so that you can get more money into the classroom and less in administrative expenses. I know you don't believe me.
Well,
but
I've heard it for 20 years from
you know,
everybody.
Yeah, but nobody's done this.
Right.
Nobody's even proposed this. Certainly no liberal has ever proposed it.
Right.
But we have to look at the spending formula, and
Okay.
and yes, we do have to fully fund it, whatever that dollar is.
Sorry, I don't
Sure.
mean to, just trying to move it along.
That's all right.
But on the much larger sums of money than you might save through a controller of public spending, I'm guessing it would be much larger, because we're talking about billions. Was the
By the way,
pension and health reform passed that you opposed?
Correct.
If that did not pass, our fiscal hole today would be significantly worse
Yeah,
than
but
it
why
is.
did I oppose it? I opposed it because it was a setup. It was a fake deal. It did not have a non-severability clause in there, meaning the courts could decide, as they did, that the public employees had to pay their additional amounts, but the government didn't have to comply with their bargain to fully fund the pension.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's good public policy to deceive the people who you're legislating on behalf
You're saying
of.
the workers took their cuts, the government didn't hold its part of the bargain up under Christie.
And it was a setup. I knew it ahead of time. They must have known it ahead of time. It did not have, if it had a non-severability clause in there, I would have voted for it.
So do you think we need a second round of benefit cuts for public workers today?
I think we need reforms. And the way to make those reforms is first to fully fund the pension. And Christie actually has a good idea. I may be the only one who supports moving the asset of the lottery, which is worth about $13 billion, into the pension fund, which reduces the individual yearly liability. And then, of course, I have a real millionaire's tax, not one that starts at $1 million. If you're making $450,000 a year, you're a millionaire. That will raise $1 billion. I have I'll close corporate tax loopholes that 40 other states have, which allow big international corporations to move revenues gained here offshore, so they don't pay taxes.
That's another $300 million.
That's another $300 million. That's a good start.
Okay,
and
but
then
that's nowhere near enough.
Well, it's close.
No, 1.3 billion doesn't get you anywhere near.
Well, but the $13 billion into the fund does.
Isn't that squeezing a balloon? If you give the lottery money to the pension fund, the lottery money doesn't go to the general fund.
That's correct. But what you can do is, once you've done that, you have just about fulfilled your obligation to fully fund the pensions. Then you can. I don't believe we can sit down with our public employees after we did that fake legislation and then negotiate in good faith.
Okay.
Yes, we do have to negotiate, and healthcare benefits are the biggest area where there can be a huge saving with limited reductions in coverage.
Okay. The polls are showing you with a 4% or so. It's a long shot at this point.
Well, wait, hold on a second. You know what good polls are, right? Polls are only as good as the universe that's being polled.
Okay.
And I believe pollsters have got it wrong with Clinton Trump. They got it wrong with Obama Romney because they didn't have the right universe. My universe is not being polled. I have contacted Democrats who are not regular primary probable voters. They don't vote in primaries, but they're supporting me because of the causes that I've championed. Also, I have independents. They're not in the poll either. My long shot chance is being able to get them to the polls because they're so passionate about my positions and what I've done that they'll come out to the polls.
Okay.
If you look at it that way, it's a long shot. If I get my voters out, I win.
Okay. What I was leading up to is the hesitation that I hear about supporting you most that I run into is the money from the law firm.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Is that you're right. It would be a lot of people are saying, look, he doesn't have a chance. Why don't I ingratiate myself with Murphy and endorse him?
Well, and that's exactly what has happened.
Right. But another hesitation I've heard over the years from Democrats is regarding your law firm and the public contracts. I want to read something that appeared in the New York Times, quote from you.
Sure.
First of all, a preamble.
Shocking, isn't it?
4.5 $4.5 million in public contracts in 2015 alone through contracts with public bodies. Often, these are folks that your law firm donated money to, so that's the pay-per-play concern. Here's what you said when asked about that.
Sure.
I don't deny that, Mr. Lesniak said. People say, you raise money for people who get elected, and then they hire your law firm. I go, shocking, isn't it? Are you supposed to hire people who donated to your opponent? So this is true, it's realistic, and it didn't break the laws, but
Right.
it rubs a lot of people the wrong way because it's what many people, including us, call legalized bribery.
Well, I don't think you would call it legalized bribery when your law firm sued the Port Authority on behalf of the city of Newark and got over $1 billion for them. I have a good firm. We do good work. Nobody has ever accused us of, except some political pot shots people take all the time, of not doing good work, of overbilling. We're the best there is,
Okay.
in my opinion, and we've proved that there is. So I have no problem with sticking up for my law firm. And by the way, as you know, I've retired from it. I've retired from it because there will be conflicts right now that there's no need for me to be tied into it. I don't practice law anymore except for the public when I'm suing to overturn that Exxon settlement.
All right, last question for now. We'll have more time after this. Why do the folks who know you best in Union County choose Murphy over you?
Well, as Jerry Green, our county chair, who tried to talk me out of running, said, Ray, we're going to get whatever we want from Phil Murphy for 8 years. Now, if that was a private conversation, but he's told that to other folks. Mm-hmm. We're going to get whatever we want out of Phil Murphy for 8 years. He was trying to talk me out of running. Mm-hmm. That convinced me to run, because that's not how government should operate.
Okay.
It's plain and simple.
All right. Thanks for the time, Ray. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.